number one question I get asked when I install kitchens is, should the customer install the floor before I install the kitchen, or should the floor go in after the kitchen has been installed? And the answer to that question is, it depends. It depends on what kind of floor you're having installed. Is it a non-floating floor or is it a floating floor? And in order to answer this question, you need to know the difference between the two. The non-floating floors are floors that are secured or fastened to the subfloor, and that could be tiles, it could be hardwood, or it could be vinyl that is glued. And the floating floors are floors that, as you can guess, that is not secured into the subfloor, and that is laminate, it's vinyl plank, and it's most engineered hardwood floors. So when you know which kind of floor you're having in your new kitchen, you also know when it can be installed, because the non-floating floors are installed before the kitchen comes in, whereas the floating floors are installed after the kitchen has been installed. And if you're wondering why it is like that, then the easy explanation is that the floating floor has to be able to float because it will expand when the humidity in the room is changing. And if the floor cannot move freely, you might experience that it will bulge either in the middle or at the wall. And we don't want that to happen. So make sure that any floating floors are installed after the kitchen has been installed. If you're wondering if you can install all type of floors after the kitchen has been installed, the answer is yes, you can, but you really don't want to install the non-floating floors after the kitchen has been installed. It is much better to have your hardwood floor or your tiles run all over the area of the kitchen. You will be much happier with that result. As you can see in this picture, where the tiles has been put in after the kitchen was installed, the installer didn't know that he had to lift up that little black ring sitting there on the leg, and it made it a bit difficult to install the toe kicks after that. And it's not a great solution. You really want those tiles to come in and cover the entire kitchen floor before you start installing the kitchen. In this picture you can see how the floor installer has done it right, because he have installed the laminate floor up to the leg. He lifted that ring sitting on the leg, and then he left about 1/4 of an inch of clearance between the laminate floor and the leg. That means there's still a bit of room for the floor to expand. And when the floor is in, that black ring will be pushed down against the floor, and it will serve as a distance piece for the toe kick, so the toe kick will be sitting nice vertically on that leg, and it will look really nice. There's just one thing you need to remember when you're having floating floors, and that is that if you have panels that are running all the way to the floor, like you can see in this picture where we have around the island and we have at the fridge there at the back, those panels cannot be installed before the floating floor has been put in. If you have non-floating floors, you can install everything on top of that floor. But if you have floating floors, those panels that are running all the way to the floor cannot come in before after the floor has been installed. So first you install the kitchen, all of it except those panels, then you install the floor, and then at the very end you add those panels that are running all the way to the floor. If you have panels sitting on the edge of a cabinet that is not running to the floor, obviously you can put those in. But those that are sitting on top of the floor, you have to wait until the floor has been installed. If this seems very confusing to you, then I can highly recommend that you talk with your flooring guy. The guy or girl who will install your floor, he will know whether it's a floating or non-floating. He will know whether you can put a heavy burden like a kitchen on top of a floating floor, because some flooring manufacturers, they don't have a problem with that. So as long as you go with what the manufacturer says, then you would be fine.